Cove House was an amazing project where Secret Gardens was engaged to design the gardens surrounding what is truly an iconic home. Cove House sits at the most southern tip of Cronulla, commanding 180-degree views over Salmon Hall Bay, across Port Hacking to Gibbon Beach and Bundeena. I first saw this property when our family had organised a one-week stay over at Bundeena on the opposite side. Grabbed my paddleboard and attempted to paddle across to get a closer look. Within 5 days, I happened to get a phone call from Shane, the owner. They had been undergoing extensive internal renovations and they'd done a magnificent job internally. It's clear that they were really passionate about the project, and we were lucky enough to be given a fairly blank canvas here, so it's only going to be our imagination getting in the way of the final result.
Our passion for mid-century modernism and Brazilian modernism really evolved as we started to understand the history of the house. The house was designed by Ruben Lane, who was a young architect that lived in Brazil for a number of years and worked with Oscar Niemeyer, and also then moved to France and worked with Le Corbusier, who were absolutely at the forefront of mid-century modernism in the early 1960s. Rubens brought a lot of those critical mid-century influences back into the house. You can see that with the free-flowing shapes and the formlessness, which would have been a very, very difficult construction challenge in the early 1970s. And we've been very conscious in doing the renovation that we stayed true to the essence of those critical elements.
And once we met Matt and the team, we knew that they were going to be the right ones to help us.
The house really took my breath away. I got instantly excited about the possibilities here. The dramatic curves here and the strong shapes. It was a very different canvas that we had been presented with. We draw inspiration from all of our surrounds. That might be in the architecture, but also in the surrounding landscape. When you walk along the foreshore here and down to the water's edge, there's an interesting series of rock pools that were inspiring us to work with this circular and curved formations that we brought through to the garden design. The curves and circles start at the entrance to the property to greet guests in the form of random circular stepping stones that lead you to the top of a staircase that sweeps down to the front door. In the northern courtyard, closer to the house, we've got a larger area of planting which is definitely more protected, where we were able to introduce some of the broader, more lush foliage species. Once we make our way down to the water side, the conditions change significantly. We have a lot more exposure to the southerly winds and some salt spray. We were keen to work with finer foliages that are far more resilient, but we also had to pull through some of the broader leaf species to pick up on other areas where we had used succulents and cactus throughout the garden, always trying to create that link. The end of the swimming pool has a lovely glass curved frontage which sweeps around to connect with the main lower terrace of the lower living areas and gymnasium. And that curve mirrors what you see on the southern edge of the roofline of the house. Waterfront properties like this with such a big view, it's like a painting that's forever changing. It's very dramatic. Some days can be bright and happy, and other days can be dark and gloomy. And that can be 4 seasons in one day on a property like this.
It's nice to sort of be exposed to those really extreme weather events and to feel cozy inside the house and actually see the environment and the weather change around you. I think the thing that we're most proud about is that we've always been true to the heritage and the essence of what I think the architect had sought to achieve. We've been very sensitive in terms of what we've done with the interiors. Most of our furnishings are from original Brazilian designers from a similar sort of era. You'll probably see that there's a lot of brass detailing as well. For the interiors of the house, we use Brendan Wong design. to help us curate and get a consistent feel across all the renovations and all the rooms. It's one of the most enjoyable living spaces that we've ever experienced. Very relaxing, fantastic natural light, and just adds to that feeling of connection to the environment and the views outside. As you move from the lounge room down to the lower level of the house, you sort of enter a cave. And it's much more low ceiling, very confined. It's a very livable space, but many different elements to that livability.
There's so many different aspects to the garden, and the look and feel of the garden seems to change with the weather conditions and with the time of day.
The garden takes on a lovely warm glow where the masonry texture of the render here also provides a softness. I guess one of our more prominent design inclusions was the descending lawn steps, and that leads you down to the fireplace. And it's positioned at a part of the garden to capture what is probably my favourite view, and that's glancing across the lawn circles that we've created with the natural backdrop of Port Hacking and Gibbon Beach in the far distance. It's really lovely to actually just sit back there and reflect on what we've achieved here.
The first time that we sat down by the fire pit and just relaxed and actually drank in our surroundings and the garden, it was such a beautiful evening. It was something very special to share. Having a glass of wine together and thinking how lucky we are.
We had a very clear plan for what we wanted to achieve, but we were also very conscious about staying true to the essence of the original design and making certain that we respected the heritage of what is a very significant mid-century house. The garden just gives us such a wonderful connection.
As a team, we were presented with a big challenge, and we knew how important this project was. We know that Shane and Lynn did not take the decision lightly when they brought us on board. To see the project as a whole house complete internally and externally, and the garden thriving, there's a lot that I'm proud of here.